Hey everybody, welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and this is a special bonus episode where we're going to be talking about planning a bachelor party here in Las Vegas. So I was reached out on Instagram, Concierge Confidential _LV, about trying to do a podcast episode about planning a bachelor party. And this one is quite specific. I had a lot of direction on this, which was very, very nice. A lot of information, and then we kind of went through all the information, kind of went day by day, and try to give my best recommendations for this particular trip. So this is for Barbone, I believe is the name of the bachelor, at least that's his nickname, and this was by your friend Willis, so that was quite nice. So for those of you that may not be in the party that's going on this bachelor party, this will actually be a nice little episode to go over kind of how I go about planning a bachelor party specifically, and they do have a lot of good recommendations in terms of steakhouses, shows, a couple different low-limit gambling options, just because when I say low-limit, I'm talking $10 or $15, and then also some places for like brunch and lunch options as well. And this is a really good episode, especially for those of you who are maybe guys who really want to do brunch, but maybe don't want to do sort of that, you know, the frilly sort of brunch. You want to have a cool, like, nice brunch spot with the boys, if you will. So we're also going to be going over some nightclub stuff and some day club stuff as well. So that's really important going into summer or spring. It's all basically two seasons in Las Vegas. It's winter and summer. That's all it is. So anyways, let's jump into it. The bonus episode for the Barbone Bachelor Party. Okay, everybody, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So let's go over some of the parameters that I was given. So they're going to be here for a couple of days. So it looks like they have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend, of course. So a couple of the things that were asked, they wanted to find a brunch spot. So that was important to me to sort of look through, brunch or lunch, if you will, in downtown. That's always important to note. It's in downtown or the Strip. Those are always important things to ask when we're planning these things, because we have to know where we're sort of locating stuff. Then we also have a steakhouse, and then they also wanted to see the Sphere. So anyways, before we get into all that, there are between 9 and 10 people that are going to be in this bachelor party. That is a very, very important note to keep in mind when you are coming to Las Vegas, that your party size is very, very important, especially when it comes to planning like shows, planning nightclubs, and also planning dinner. Those are really, really important things to note, just because most restaurants on the Las Vegas Strip tend to require a credit card authorization form or a prefix menu or things of that nature if it is over 8 people. 8 people is sort of that magic number. 8 is the number where we still take sort of a regular reservation. Anything over 8, then we start getting into sort of crazy territory. But typically, if you have 9 people in your party, you can usually make the reservation for 8 people and say that we're going to have one more person join us. And then typically they're okay with that. 1 to 2 people, they're okay with you doing that. They do not like when you add like 5 extra people, because that is a totally different situation. But typically, if you say you have 8 and you add 1, that's typically not a problem. So, because sometimes when you jump from 8 to 9, it's completely different. So again, if you have 9 people in your reservation or 9 people on your bachelor party itinerary, I would go ahead and just make the reservation for 8 and then add the 1 person when you go to dinner. Most likely they are not going to turn away that 1 person because, hey, that's another person they can make money off of. So anyways, so let's go ahead and jump into it. This one was for Tuesday, so they gave me sort of an outline. So for Tuesday, they really wanted to do sort of like a brunch or lunch option, and they wanted to be downtown. It's also where they wanted to do a little bit of gambling as well. So a couple of my brunch/lunch options downtown. One of them is called Park on Fremont, which Park on Fremont is on Fremont Street, but it's on East Fremont Street. So it's actually not under the covered part of Fremont Street. It's kind of where like a lot of the locals hang out at. And when I say that, I don't mean like you're way off of the Strip. You basically, there's the canopy. You go 1 street over on Las Vegas Boulevard, and boom, you're in East Fremont, which is sort of like this nice little strip of really, really cool restaurants and local spots that are really, really popular, especially in the evenings on like Fridays and Saturdays for locals to come down to. And that's where you're going to find a lot of people who work in the industries who want to let loose and have a good time. It's not really my scene because it's more of like a place you go with a big group. I'm not a big groups guy. Actually, I go out alone quite a bit. No, it sounds sad, but I'm actually okay with that because I make really good friends with bartenders. But With that being said, East Fremont is really, really fun, and they do have a lot of really good daytime features that you can do while you're down there. So one of them is Park on Fremont. It has this like really cool sort of like kind of hipstery vibe with sort of an outdoor space to sort of sit, take in the sun if you want, and it's really, really fantastic. So Park on Fremont, really good. They have a really good selection of brunch options, everything from eggs and omelets and what's that one that everybody always uses? Oh my goodness. Every time I want to say one of these things, it always escapes me. Either way, what is it called? Eggs Benedict. That is what it's called. Eggs Benedict is what we're looking for. So really good Eggs Benedict over at Park on Fremont. And it's just steps away from Fremont Street. So you're still able to get a really, really nice sort of vibes and feels. But you are able to sort of have an option just because they do have a lot of things on their menu to choose from, and it's a really good choice. Another place that I like to recommend, which this one's kind of new, and I actually didn't write this one down, but I just sort of came across it and it reminded me that they have this, but it's called La Mona Rosa, which La Mona Rosa is actually a Mexican restaurant, but they actually do they're really known for their brunch options. So their brunch is actually really, really good. It's a little bit more frilly. They actually do like a pink girl brunch every couple of weeks, but that is actually a really good choice. La Mona Rosa, which has really cool vibes in it, has very like Dia de los Muertos vibes, very, very fresh, and I think is a really great choice. So I would highly recommend that. Also, Carson's Kitchen, which is actually just going to be down on that part of Fremont, which is that sort of outdoor space. And they also have Esther's Kitchen, which just opened up in that area as well. Carson's Kitchen, huge menu, really, really sort of like modern sort of style on the inside. They don't have any outdoor seating, which is sometimes what you go for brunch. So that's why I recommend Park on Fremont or La Mona Rosa, because they have sort of like doors that open up to the outside, which I really like. So those are a couple really good options on East Fremont. I also threw in Hash a Go-Go because I don't know really what like your guys are wanting to do, because a lot of those places are a little bit more dainty, a little bit more, brunchy. Hash a Go-Go is definitely one of the more popular sort of a chain in Las Vegas restaurants. They serve a lot of food, really gigantic portions. So it's not so much brunchy, but does have a very good lunch and like sort of brunch vibe. But very large portions, huge portions. Again, it's inside, so in terms of vibes, it's not as vibey. But in terms of food, it's very, very large portions of food at Hash a Go-Go. Another one I just want to throw in there just because it's downtown and I really enjoy this place and always want to give it a plug is 8 East, which is over at Circa, which 8 East is going to be it's sort of it's fusion cuisine, so it's basically like sort of Pan Asian cuisine that they do a little bit of Thai, they do a little bit, they have a couple Japanese options, but mostly like Thai cuisine. But again, they have noodles, they have their brisket fried rice, which is world famous at this point. I love the brisket fried rice. They also have really good wings and a lot of smaller options. It's a really good place to share. You can make reservations online, especially with 8 people. I would recommend that. They would probably put you in the back room, sort of a private room. It's sort of the big kitty, and they have really good drink options as well, and then fantastic bartenders to go along with it. So Christy, she's my favorite bartender, also my favorite server there. She does both. She's blonde, she's beautiful, and she's actually has a great personality and is really, really fantastic and always treats me well when I go there. So just wanted to give Christy a shout if you see her over at 8 East. But 8 East opens 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning and then goes late at night as well. So also great for late night bites. But I really love 8 East. It's probably my favorite restaurant at Circa, which is going to lead me into my next thing is gambling. So if you want to gamble while you're on Fremont Street, most places on Fremont Street are going to be, $10 or $15 minimums for most games, blackjack, craps, so have you. It does depend where you go, though. So if you go to places like, for example, Circa, I'm at Circa like almost every single day just because that's a place that I work at. And Circa, typically, their minimums for blackjack are going to be $15 and up until it gets to the evening, where it will go up to $25 because they are one of the busier casinos on Fremont Street. As we kind of just go through, once you get inside of Circa, they do have craps tables. Most of the craps tables are going to be between 10 and 15, 15 most of the time. As it gets later in the day, they will open up another table, which is right by the mega bar, huge bar, which actually does have $10 craps at it as well, which is quite nice to have a $10 craps table because, you can get a lot out of a $10 craps table. But Circa is a really great option if you want to sort of walk out of Circa, because Circa feels very much like a new hotel. It is a new hotel, so it does have that very like strip vibe, if you will, on Fremont Street. So if you want to get more of a downtown vibe, then I'd highly recommend, walking out. You can walk over to Binion's, which Binion's is going to be a really great option for sort of that old school, like Western vibe when you go inside. It's definitely going to change the type of clientele when you walk into Binion's. But they will have $10 blackjack, $10 craps, so on and so forth. If you walk, not a lot of dining options. They do have their rotating bar, which is actually going to be overlooking Fremont Street. My dad loves it there. It's okay to me. So it just kind of depends, especially if it's in the summertime. It gets really, really hot in that rotating bar. So just keep that in mind if you are going to be going to the Binion's Carousel Bar. Right across, they do have, of course, the Golden Nugget. Golden Nugget, kind of basic hotel to me, honestly. The prices for table games are going to be, $15, $25. And then, they go up from there. If you want a place that has a little bit more affordable options, if you were down over on East Fremont Street, once you're done, you can actually just walk right over to the El Cortez, which the El Cortez has been up since 1941. And this hotel is actually really, really fun to go through because it's the original building. It has that sort of like ranch style, which has a big giant sign that says gambling, which is just really, really cool. Great for photos. And they do have lower limit tables. They do tend to have $10 and $15 tables. For craps, they used to always have $10 as well. I think they might have even had $5 for a while. But it was really funny because when I went there, when I was playing, I was there with a coworker, and we were playing craps, and we're like, yeah, let's get a Bud Light. And you know how they usually go to the back to get, the Bud Light and give it to you? Nope, they just have it in a big, giant ice trough right there in the middle of the pit, which was so funny because if you just want a beer, that's a fantastic option. So it was ice cold, which my dad would love that. My dad's a very no frills person, as I'm finding out as I get older. So that would be really great options for if you want to gamble on Fremont Street. And again, it's all up to personal preference. I mean, the places that I don't tend to recommend for Fremont Street are like the Four Queens, the Fremont Hotel, the California. Those are okay, I guess. But just in terms of vibes, like if you're here for a bachelor party, I don't recommend those options. It just sort of brings down the energy, if you will, if you go to those spots. El Cortez might do that, but I don't know. It just had sort of a vibe on a Friday night, which was super, super fun. But Circa is definitely one of your better options, along with Binion's and maybe the Golden Nugget. But again, in terms of vibes, Circa would be the one far, far away is what I would recommend. So as we're moving on, the next thing I got requested was if they wanted to go to the Sphere. So if you want to go to the Sphere, and there is not a concert on that day, I believe U2 has finished up their residency, and I think Fish is coming in next, or the Grateful Dead. I think it's the Grateful Dead are coming in next. So didn't look for those, but I did find Postcards from Earth, which Postcards from Earth is the Darren Aronofsky film. It's a sort of a planet film, like a nature film, that actually wants to utilize the entire screen at the Sphere. If you want to go in and watch that, it is $69 per person if you want to purchase tickets for Postcards from Earth. Or if you just want to see the outside of the Sphere, you can certainly just walk over to the Wynn and the Palazzo Bridge, and you can get a good view from there, or you can walk all the way up to the Sphere if you want as well. But typically, if you don't want to walk all the way up there, you can just walk on the bridge that connects the Palazzo to the Wynn. On the bridge, you can look over, and there's a beautiful shot of the Sphere overhead. So definitely doable. I also had this question, and again, there's lots of notes, so I had to sort of figure this one out. But the beer park, I believe you were looking for a place that actually was like an outdoor beer garden, or a place that had a view of the Strip, or you can have lunch, or even dinner, sort of like a light, sort of like a more chill vibe dinner. The beer park at the Paris Hotel is fantastic for that. You can actually get a nice beer, you get a nice view of the fountains, you can overlook the Strip, get all the vibes, soaking it all in. It's really good for the day or the nighttime. If you do it at nighttime, they do close about 10 or 11 o'clock, which is a little bit early in town, but they have really, really good food. it's going to be sort of barbecue style, so think sort of like bar food, but the bar food is actually really good. I really enjoyed the wings, really enjoyed the burgers, and their pulled pork sandwich is actually a perfect size for me. I don't like it too gigantic, so it was actually really, really filling and didn't, make me feel super full, like I wanted to throw up after eating it. So it was really, really delicious, and it was, perfect size, which is really good. And again, they have over 30 beers on tap, which is really great. They also have beers that are, they have bottled beers, they have cans, they have IPAs, they have a huge selection of beer to choose from, and they can make cocktails as well. But I would recommend, if you go to the beer park, you got to get a beer if you go to beer park. I think the beer park is one of my favorite rooftop experiences, especially in the daytime. It's really, really fantastic. If you're, having a drink, sort of feels very beer garden-y, you get the sun. Love the beer park. It's really good. It's also great like during baseball season because it just has that sort of outdoor summer feel, and you get that sort of just, put your glasses on, just vibing out. I really enjoy the beer park. Another place, if you wanted a little bit different experience, they have the Brewdog Brewery, which this is actually going to be a higher location that actually overlooks the strip as well. This is going to be more towards the MGM Grand, but it's not at MGM Grand. It is actually going to be right next to the Hard Rock Cafe. You do have to go up an elevator to get there, and then they do compromise 3 floors of the top of that building. It is a brewery, so they do have their own beers on tap. I don't know if they sell other beers. I always forget if they do. But they do make different cocktails, of course. Their food menu is fine. It's okay. I think Beer Park is better, but Brewdog has a really cool sort of rooftop. It feels very like downtown LA, where you're sort of has these fire pits. You can actually just sit out on these sort of like beach chairs. It has, a really great 360 view of the entire Las Vegas Strip looking north and south. So that's really a big selling point, is the view is really off the charts. So as I'm moving down, I'm now into Thursday. So I think I skipped Wednesday for some reason. That might have been a free day that they were sort of still figuring stuff out. But on Thursday, we are trying to do steak and a show. So they wanted to do a steakhouse. They wanted to do a show, which is very classic Vegas, which is awesome. This would be an expensive evening, but you're going to a steakhouse in Vegas, so you kind of already knew that. So I do have a couple different options here. The option that I did in terms of a show, because it was mentioned that they wanted to do absinthe. So for absinthe, I thought that it would actually be best if you did the 10 o'clock show rather than the earlier show, because the early show is usually around 8:30, and the late show's at 10 o'clock, obviously. So it sort of limits you. When you do an 8 o'clock show, it always limits you in terms of restaurants that you can dine at, because then you have to figure out, okay, do you want to eat early or do you want to eat late? So I decided that I would recommend the late show. So absinthe at 10 o'clock. So for that show, I did check for the day that you're coming, and they do only allow 9 tickets maximum at one time. So if there's going to be 10 of you, just know that you're going to have to split these up. So if you do that, make sure there's a couple ways of doing it. One person can purchase them all on one card, which I know is always difficult because, again, that's a lot of money. So if you want to split it up, always sort of communicate with everybody that, hey, we're going to be in this row at this seat from here to here. That's a really good way to do it. Say, hey, I bought this chair. Hey, I bought this seat. Hey, I bought this seat. So try to be in communication with your group to who bought what. Or you could buy them in chunks. You could buy like 4 and then 4. That's always kind of a way to do it. You could do 2s and 2s. That's always an easier way to do it. But purchase through the website. You can highlight it. It lets you select like 9 at a time, like I said. But again, you can do like 2, whatever, so on and so forth. And you can just pick your seats as well. So the prices for absinthe, just so you are aware when you go in, the most affordable ticket, you're looking at $129. That's going to be more towards the back of the theater. So, and again, this is in the round, so absinthe is in a circle. So there's not really a bad seat. It's sort of tiered, but it really isn't. It's actually just on a slope. So just keep in mind there is not tiered. So there are sometimes not great seats inside of the theater. But it is in the round, and it's actually a small theater, which is why the tickets are so expensive. So $129 for the back seats. Then you get to the middle part of the theater, which you're looking at $169. And then if you want to get up close, right before you get into the golden circle, you are at $189, which $189 will put you like in the 3rd or 4th row of the theater. So again, $129, $169, $189 are the prices for absinthe tickets. That does not include taxes and fees. So just know that if you pay for a $129 ticket, you're probably going to be leaving there at about $150. Is it a $30 charge? No, it's actually like 20 because that's why I got to 150. So that's why. But anyways, that's what absinthe would be looking for at the 10 o'clock show. So when it comes to this, you typically want to have your dinner close to your show so it makes life easy. You don't want to be going from one end of the strip to the other end of the strip because that's a very long day. And again, you might run short on time because it's your very large party. So with a group of 9 or 10 people, as close to those attractions as possible. I arranged a bachelor party for my cousin, and oh my God, it was literally wrangling cats. It was the hardest thing to do that I've ever done in my entire life because we would do dinner at Venetian, and then everybody wanted to get on a party bus so they can go to downtown. And essentially, we had 30 minutes between dinner and then the car ride. And then everybody had to, like, in that 20-minute section, they had to gamble. They had to find a roulette table. They could not walk without doing it. So things as close as possible is probably the best. And for the most part, walking. Try to do walking if you can, because getting things together for 10 people can be very, very difficult. So in this case, there are a lot of steakhouses next to Absinthe, which is really great. So the place that I recommended, Peter Luger over at Caesar's Palace, that just opened. It's world-renowned. Obviously, it's very different than the one in New York. New York has all the history. The one in Las Vegas is really, really good. It's a very, very good steakhouse. I actually went there with my parents a while back. If you want to see that video, check us out on conciergeconfidential_LV for any of the videos that I've ever done. And Peter Luger's is one that I have done, where you can see how they actually do serve their porterhouse, their steak for 2, steak for 3, steak for 4. Those are all options, but they're all based off of the steak for 2 option. So I recommend, if you do go to Peter Luger, do not order a steak just for yourself. Do the pairs. Do the steak for 2, steak for 3, steak for 4. With 10 people, I'd probably do like 2 of the steak for 4s, and then you can get sides, you can get, appetizers, you can get dessert, whatever you want. But this is a great option. You want to go to places that have these options where you can dine and pick off and do sort of family style. Because if you have this many people, it's going to take forever if everybody orders their own thing. Obviously, if you have a vegetarian in the room, you have the vegetarian do their thing. But it's really good for when you have these bigger groups to do family-style dining. One, it's going to actually end up being cheaper than purchasing everything for yourself. And also, it makes it go faster. Because if they're just conditioned, the chefs are conditioned to pump out these dishes. If they could just pump out one big dish, it's much easier than doing 9 individual dishes. So Peter Luger is a great option for this because they're already ready to do this. So they have all the readiness to do these things. So Peter Luger, great choice. It's a vibe. It's really, really good for, just a bunch of guys because it feels, it's open, it's airy, it's a very large restaurant. It's a huge restaurant where you're able to space out. They have big tables, which is good for a bigger group. You want to find these places that have these bigger table options just because, again, it'll be much easier for you in the future to make, these reservations, to be a little bit more flexible. They have the room to accommodate you. So Peter Luger, my first choice if you're going to be doing a steakhouse next to the Absinthe Theater. So moving on from that, I would also recommend Stanton Social. Stanton Social is a really good choice. That's inside of Caesar's Palace. It's new, it's fresh, it's fun. It's a little bit smaller restaurant than Peter Luger, but it does have it has a very young vibe. It's very like sort of carnival 1920s, and it has all these fun different aspects to it. It's very like Instagrammable, but it's sort of that lightness where it doesn't feel like a date spot. It feels like a place you want to hang. It's a very like go to the club after going to dinner sort of spot. You're getting ready at Stanton Social. Also because Stanton Social is right next to Omnia. So as we go through it, Stanton Social does have a couple different steak options. They have a lot of different options in terms of fish. They also have really good options in terms of appetizers and desserts. If you want to watch that video, again, follow us on our socials. You can follow us on TikTok at Keys to Vegas for any of these videos as well, where I kind of go through all like the options on side. So Stanton Social, another great option within walking distance of the Absinthe Theater, again, at Caesar's Palace. I also recommended the Palm. The Palm has been there forever. It's actually where they went to in The Hangover. Well, at least in the story, they went to Palm in The Hangover. They have lobster there. They have steak. little bit more traditional vibe. It's sort of inside of the Forum shops. So again, it's really, really good. The lobsters are gigantic. And again, it's a really, really fun spot. Just sort of add on to that, Joe's Steak and Stone Crab, really, really popular at Caesar's Palace as well. I'll throw that one in there too. Can be quite expensive. I would say that Joe's Steak and Stone Crab is quite a pricey place. So just be aware of that, before heading into it. So if you wanted a more affordable option, because all those places are similar in price, but like Peter Luger's, you're getting a trade-off because you're getting a larger, cuts of meat, so you're able to sort of share. Stanton Social, similar. The Palm is definitely going to be like, you get a steak for yourself kind of thing. Ruth Chris is a chain, but it is close to the Absinthe Theater. And this is going to be at Harrah's, which is across the street. I would say this is definitely a choice, especially if you're going for something a little bit more affordable and something a little bit more economical for sure. So again, check out all these menus out as you kind of go through. But my options for steakhouses are Peter Luger, Stanton Social, The Palm, and Ruth Chris are all those choices. But again, I know Ruth Chris is a chain, but again, if you're doing something more affordable, sometimes you have to go to these options. So as I move on, let's go to Friday. So Friday was the day club day. So Friday is the party day, which looks like they want to go to a club in the daytime, day club, and they also want to go do drinks after. So we'll start sort of in the morning time. So if we're looking at Friday, the day club options, the one that they really wanted to do was Encore Beach, which always recommend Encore Beach. You always get a beautiful crowd. It's very, very crowded at Encore Beach, so just know that it gets very, very busy. The trade-off is that it actually might not be as busy this season because we have a brand new day club opening over at the Fountain Blue, and that is Live Beach. So Live Beach is the day club arm of Live nightclub. And Live Beach looks like it's going to be a little bit more intimate in terms of scale. I do know a couple hosts that work for Live and Live nightclub. So for this group, I will forward you their information so you have that ready to go. When you want to make your reservation, you can go through Kyle Carter, who is a really, really great host over at Live. He's actually one of the executive hosts. And Kyle Carter has had more than 10 years in the nightclub industry. He actually used to work at Encore Beach and XS, and he moved over to Live Beach and Live nightclub. So I'll reach out with his information so you can reach out and look about making a table reservation. Just know that when you do any of these day clubs, there is a spending minimum. It's not a bottle minimum. It's a spending minimum for day clubs. So typically you will have many options. I always recommend that if you have a group that likes to drink beer, that you order maybe a bucket of beer and then also a bottle if you want to do it that way. And of course, you can add food onto this as well. So typically your minimums will be higher because you are getting basically the entire day. It is very different than a nightclub, where in a nightclub you start, let's just say 10 o'clock and you go till, let's just say 1. You're looking at 3 hours that you're going to get. So typically the minimums for like 9 or 10 people for a nightclub are probably going to be somewhere closer to around $4,000 to $5,000. Just because you're taking up a very, very important piece of real estate that, you're going to own for the whole night. So again, with 9 to 10 people for a day club, you're looking at for a nightclub, you're looking between, $5,000. If you're looking for a day club, the day clubs tend to be a little bit less just because it's in the daytime. But for 9 to 10 people, you're probably looking to get like a cabana, which is typically going to be, a larger space, not like a day bed. But if you get a large cabana or like a bungalow, you sort of have to trade these off. You'll be looking to spend between $3,000 and $4,000 for like a day club choice, just because you have a very large party size. With a group of this size, the prices for a lot of things will go up. So I would say between $3,000 and $4,000 for a day club. But you always have to sort of do the math. So if you end up doing the math, let's go ahead and do the math for you guys here today. So let me just pull out the calculator. So let's pull out the calculator. So let's just say it's $4,000 divided by 10 people, which is funny because it's actually going to be a very easy way to do this. You're looking at $400 per person. And again, you have to tack on like another $500 just because taxes, fees, autograt, things like that. You have to worry about that. But you're looking at about $400 for a whole day of entertainment. It's a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like, even for, 10 guys to spend $400 on one experience can be a lot of money. So sometimes you just have to sort of figure out, is it worth it or in your best interest to do that? And sometimes you get a deal. Sometimes if you book a day club and a nightclub at the same place, sometimes they might cut a deal for you just because they know that you've done both. So that's one way of looking at it, by booking in the same place. So I don't know. But again, that's Live, and Live is going to be brand new. They're just opening this season. And again, does look more intimate. They're going to have DJs like Calvin Harris and, Tiesto and those kind of guys. So I didn't check who the DJ would be when you guys are here. But usually we don't have those come out till, closer to that date, which I believe was going to be in May. I'm now going to actually go to this and double check. May 28th. Yep. So May 28th. It's pretty far from now in terms of who the DJ is going to be. So Live Beach is good. I would also recommend Tao Beach. Tao Beach actually opened a couple years ago, I think last year, and they are a really fun property. They actually probably were one of the busiest properties last year in terms of day clubs. So this year might be a little bit chiller vibe just because the new guy in town is always the busiest, so Live. But if you want to go to Tao ends up being actually a little bit more approachable in terms of pricing. You're looking at between, $2,000 and $3,000 for maybe a party of your size, especially if it's like on a Friday. So for those days, I would say that's a really great choice. I would recommend, I'll also give you the contact for that gentleman, Elliot Ailman, who is the host for a lot of Tao Group locations in terms of nightclubs and day clubs. But Elliot Ailman is my host for that one, and he's actually a really, really great guy who really knows his stuff about what's going to be best for you, and he can do all those options. He's a great one-stop shop for any of these places in terms of Tao Group, which is really, really good. So, yeah, I would recommend that for your day club options. So, Encore Beach, Live Beach, Tao Beach. I know where these are all beaches. And then just sort of throw an extra one in there. Marquee Day Club is also a really great spot as well. Always get really great, beautiful women there, which is if you're a bachelor party, that's kind of what you're looking for, beautiful people. Those are the options that I recommend. Why did I not say Wet Republic? Wet Republic, just so everybody knows, tends to be just so many dudes. Just too many dudes at Wet Republic. It's crazy. So, again, watch out. Anyways, so moving on. So let's move into the evening time. In the evening, they wanted to do a cocktail bar. So cocktail bars are my specialty. So we're going to be talking about that on the other side after this quick break. So we're going to be going over some of my favorite parts of going out, which is cocktail bars. So let's go ahead and jump into a few that I think would be great for this bachelor party. So one that has become super, super popular of late is the Nowhere Bar, which is over at Fontainebleau, which that place is really fun just because it's a very wide and open, and you have sort of like billiards. You also can smoke cigars in there. The bar is a little bit small in terms of the actual bar top itself, but the actual cocktail lounge is actually quite big. So if you want more of like a sophisticated night out where you feel like, you want to be more of an adult, highly recommend it. They have lots of places to sit. They have live music. It's typically sort of like a band, which is nice, sort of like a jazzy type band. Probably a little bit more refined than most like bachelor parties would ask for, but this option is definitely a choice. It definitely says who you're trying to be, more refined. But that's what I would recommend. They also have Collins, which is a bar that I like, but I wouldn't recommend it for this bachelor party just because it's more of like a chill spot. I wouldn't recommend it for like a group, unless you're like a business group. Another one I'd recommend, Aft is good. Aft is over at the Wynn, which that's outside. I wrote it on the list. I think I might have been really late at night. So Aft is okay. It's definitely a place where you're going to maybe start the evening, but really you're just there to have a drink. Actually, scrape it off the list. No Aft. Don't go to Aft. This not for this bachelor party. I don't want it to be for this bachelor party. But an option that I really like is a place called Pinky Ring, which is over at the Bellagio. That is Bruno Mars's restaurant. Bruno Mars's cocktail lounge, which just opened. They have live music. It feels vibey. You get a lot of, get some women in there. And it just, when I say there's women there, it's because it creates a vibe. So that's my thing. It's just like when you have women at any location, that's always a good thing in terms of a bar. Just because women tend to dance, women tend to just make everything just look better in Vegas, regardless. So I always think if there's women at this spot, it must be a good place. So that's how I always sort of gauge if this is a good spot. Ladies, don't worry. If you are there, and the guys will come. There will always be men every place here in Vegas. You will see. So for the guys, it's really, really important. If women are there, that means it's a good spot to be at. So Pinky Ring, really awesome. You do need to make reservations if you're going to be a large group, just because you do, you're probably going to want to sit at a table or something. Again, those prices fluctuate, but that's going between, for a group of this size, like 9 to 10 people, you're probably looking for one of their booths that's going to be around $1,000 to $1,500. But when you really break it down, it's about $100 a person. Very doable, especially if you're going to be drinking. You're going to hit 100 at some point, especially per person. So I would recommend Pinky Ring as a really great option in terms of a lounge. I would also say if you go over to Resorts World, I know we're kind of bouncing around a lot here, but Resorts World does have the Gatsby Bar, which is really, really popular nowadays. A lot of people like to hang out there. I would say it's good if you're going to go to a cocktail bar that day. Gatsby's is a good choice. They also have a really good dinner option in terms of Carver steak. They also have Viva, which is a really good Mexican restaurant. Would highly recommend that as well if you're going to be going over to Resorts World. So those are kind of my options for cocktail bars. Always like to recommend Electra over at the Palazzo is a really fantastic bar just because they have DJ music. It's really, really fun. You can get a table if you want, but it's open. It's a lounge. It's not a nightclub. They have a nice bar, really fantastic cocktails. They know how to make a cocktail there. But Electra Lounge over at Palazzo is a fantastic choice for if you want a place to dance, party a little bit, but not go to a nightclub. Electra is definitely a fantastic choice. So that sort of rounds out my cocktail bars for this particular group. I have a lot more, but again, those are more for like single folks, and this is going to be, for a whole giant group. So Saturday, let's talk Saturday. So Saturday, we're looking for a nightclub. The nightclubs I would mention that I would recommend, always recommend XS. XS is always kind of a good spot to go to. It always has the best DJs. It always has the best people. XS is a fantastic choice. Other than that, love Omnia. But I've asked a couple friends of mine who are in sort of like the DJ scene, and I asked them, I was like, what nightclub do you feel has kind of not gone down, but sort of lost its luster, if you will? And I was very, very sad to hear that one of them is Omnia. That Omnia is sort of treated like the redheaded stepchild of Hakkasan and Tao Group. A lot of people go to Hakkasan. Omnia? Not so much. But I love Omnia. It's one of my favorite nightclubs. I always tell people to go to Omnia. That's the place that I always say you should go because it is awesome. But again, if you want to go to Omnia or Hakkasan, highly recommend reaching out to my man, Elliot Ailman, because he covers those as well. But I really like Omnia. I think it's better than Hakkasan, but really you're getting the bigger, better DJs at Hakkasan over at MGM Grand. So again, I like Omnia, but it seems like Hakkasan is really where everybody's going. So most table minimums, again, like I said earlier, for that many people, you're looking between $4,000 and $5,000. And again, just depends on who's playing that night. It depends on the night, which Saturday would be the most expensive night of the week. So again, you're going to have to sort of feel it out with the nightclub hosts to see what prices are available to you for those evenings. But again, XS is a great option. Omnia is a good option, as well as Hakkasan. And of course, there's Marquee too, but let's all just get the elephant out of the room here. Live is the nightclub of the moment at the moment. So I haven't actually been to Live yet, which is kind of funny because I've been to Fontainebleau many, many times. But again, I'm at that point in my life where I no longer go to nightclubs. So I actually kind of go off of a couple of friends who go to nightclubs quite often, and they do really enjoy Live. They think Live is sort of like where it's at right now. So that's where you're going to get all the, all the people, all the ladies, all the good-looking people, Live is where you are going. So I couldn't tell you about their sort of table setup, which is sort of, tough. I know that a lot of it is sort of centered around the middle of the nightclub. They have this big, giant, like, oval thing above the dance floor, which projects, like, happy birthdays and stuff. So, again, it's there. Live is also the place that I would recommend if you want to use Kyle Carter, if you want to use him as your host, because he is exclusively for Live Beach and Live. So, again, in terms of nightclubs, that's what I recommend. I did get a note that you wanted to do dinner that day. It really depends on where you're going. I highly recommend Mother Wolf if you're going to be over at Fountain Blue. Mother Wolf is Italian cuisine, but it's definitely going to be like more Roman cuisine. So lots of pasta, lots and lots and lots of pasta, lots of spices, lots of pepper. That's what you're going to get for your pastas. But their pizzas are also fantastic. Love their pizzas. Just know if you go to Mother Wolf, it's made to share. So make sure that you go with, a good appetite and know that everybody will be sharing dishes, because with that many guys, it is doable for that. So that's what I recommend for there. As I sort of go through for Saturday, for dinner, trying to think for dinner, what would be different? I've been going to Fountain Blue a lot, man. So yeah, so I would say Mother Wolf is a good option. What else do they got over there? So the other options that I did recommend were Caesar's Palace, which I gave over those options. They do have Bobby's Brasserie, which is going to be his sort of all, like, a brasserie typically does a lot of different cuisines. They could do burgers, they could do steaks, they do steak frites, which is really popular. That's if you're going to be around Caesar's Palace. I would also recommend, if you go over to MGM Grand, to try Lucchini, which is more Italian, which does have a speakeasy located inside of it. So they have Lucchese, and then they have Chez Bippi, which is located inside of their pizza parlor, which is a nice little speakeasy to explore once you're inside. So those are my options. I believe we've reached the end of the weekend. So it is kind of a lot. I know that there's some other things that we might want to talk about when I talk to the guys for this particular episode. But hopefully those options help you out on your planning of this beautiful bachelor party. It's fun. It's always funny when I say beautiful bachelor party. But for this bachelor party for the lucky bachelor, Barbone. Is that really what you guys call him? You guys call him Bare Bone or Barbone? That's so funny. It's hilarious. You guys should eat a Carbone if you're going to be doing that, but that's a little bit harder to get into. So, anyways, guys, this was the bonus episode for Concierge Confidential for the Barbone Bachelor Party. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, if anybody wants me to try to plan one of your trips or do my best, if it's an anniversary or Valentine's Day, that's next year, or any of these events, please reach out to me. Brian Brian_Ortega26 is my account. And then Concierge Confidential _LV is the one for this particular podcast. And then again, you can also follow me on TikTok at Keys to Vegas, or message me as well on Twitter, which is also at Keys to Vegas, for any questions you might have. So again, thank you for everybody for tuning into this bonus episode. Really appreciate it. We'll be back Thursday or Friday with Last Night in Vegas, where I talk about the Poodle Room, which is a very secret place here on the Las Vegas Strip. So for me, Brian Ortega, this was Concierge Confidential.